Hello, you guys, and welcome to the very first episode of Plant Facts, which I plan to have as a weekly series wherein we can learn and discuss something new. I thought it would be a super fun way to take our plant relationship to the next level by doing something more than simply adoring them, but by learning about them. You know what I mean? In this episode, we are going to learn when houseplants even became a thing, why they were brought indoors in the first place, and what makes some plants more successful indoors than others. If this all sounds good to you, make sure to subscribe, hit the thumbs up button, and get ready to grow. Get it? Because plants grow, and you're gonna grow because you're gonna learn information. That works, right? Yeah. Plant facts. So here's the deal. Houseplants became rooted in our culture when somebody had the bright idea to dig up a plant, put it in a pot, and to bring it inside. Nowadays, you see plants everywhere. Homes, offices, hotels, restaurants. Houseplants were once a symbol of wealth and luxury, and only until recently did they become more widely available. They were often meant to impress those around you, and I gotta be honest, I feel like some plants still fit that characteristic, or at least that description, simply because some of them are very expensive, very hard to get, and very impressive to have in your collection. But anyways, when exactly did plants start coming indoors, you may ask? Well, a lot further back than you may think. Humans in the Neolithic period began to domesticate crops. This process was super slow and super selective, but it was also the starting point of modern day agriculture. This also allowed early humanoids to transition from like hunter-gatherer type roles into more of like cities and towns, which is pretty major. You can safely assume that any respectable cave woman back in the heyday had at least one plant in her den. Now, to preface this next point in history, I'm just gonna say that this is a fable, which means that it is both or either fictitious or highly disputed amongst historians. And this is the hanging, I think it was called the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, but maybe it was just Babylon. In any case, this was in 600 BCE. So Babylon is now modern day Iraq. And in this story, King Nebuchadnezzar, I'll write it down, decided to hire essentially a whole bunch of gardeners for his wife, Amytis, and hung up a whole bunch of cedars and dates and palms and bright flowers all over the estate because his wife wasn't originally from there. She was somewhere that was a little bit more flourishing in the nature department, so she missed a lot of the foliage. So he made it happen. He made it come to her. So romantic. So in 500 and 400 BCE area time frame, plants started to come towards the wealthy Egyptians, Romans, and Greeks to embellish their sprawling estates. Rumor has it that even though all three of these cultures had terracotta pots, used terracotta pots, and liked them, the fancy schmancy Romans liked to have their roses and their violets showcased in some glassy marble. So bougie. Now around 200 and 500 CE, we're gonna start getting towards things that you're definitely gonna start to recognize because the Vietnamese, the Chinese, and the Japanese all started to have miniature woody little plants. You wanna guess what those are called? Ryan, do you wanna guess what they're called?
Bonsai.
Very good! We know them commonly as bonsai. Bonsai or bonsai? Bonsai plants. These are typically woody cuttings or seedlings planted in an unusually shallow pot and groomed continuously so that they kind of eventually mimic the shape of a much larger version of it. It's really interesting. In 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue with tropical plants. Homeboy chartered tropical trees and plants to colder climates wherein they needed the warmth and the humidity to stay alive. You know what that means? They were indoors. In the 1600s, there was a noticeable spike in houseplants because once again, The wealthy Europeans wanted to showcase their affluence through plants. It's kind of like how celebrities of our current times name drop with like Gucci or Fendi. Back in the day, people would tantalize others with their collection of perennials and fruit trees.
Like, oh, Jonathan, did you hear about the new mandarin that I got? It's simply marvelous.
He's not impressed with it. He might be more of an Apple person. But I have some exciting news. In the 1800s and the 1900s, the middle class finally started to have their own houseplants, which is honestly so good because the Lord knows that those coal fires resulted in a lot of pollution indoors. And because of this really harsh pollution-y type of condition, these delicate plants like ferns and whatnot did not last long here. Things like the cast iron plant were essentially a staple and highly loved in a lot of different homes. But we are now hitting the modern times. It is the 1950s, and people were starting to bring plants to their workplaces to liven up and bring some pizzazz to the often sterile work environment. From there, plants began to slowly but surely migrate to those people's homes. Now, a diverse range of houseplants is available to consumers, which has allowed the cost to drop pretty drastically and make it affordable to everyone. Meaning it is no longer a status symbol simply held by the wealthy, but now has become a symbol of beauty, wellness, and clean living. Whew, that was a mouthful, and it kind of makes me wonder if there was anything like equivalent to like a plant tuber back in the heyday. You can only imagine how crazy people could have been about plants back in the day, especially when basically every plant was extremely expensive and extremely hard to get. Honestly, I feel like some people would probably lose their minds over some of the plants I unboxed. I feel like it'd be like the equivalent if you like saw your time travel self. You know how what they say, it's like if you see your time travel self, you'll essentially blow up? Be like that. And with that, I hope you guys enjoyed learning a little bit about the history of houseplants. But there's one more thing that I'm adding to this video. At the end of every single video, I will try to make a joke. And the comedy club in this video series is called Trawl and Error. Do you see what I did there? Trawl and error? And with trial and error, I will try to make a joke. Just hang on. You'll see what I mean. You know, when I was younger, I always grew up with plants and I loved them. That being said, I kind of thought it was a slightly unusual thing to be into. And there seemed to be a stereotype that those people who were into plants were also sort of antisocial. As I got older, I realized that there's a whole community of people who love plants. It kind of got me wondering, how did these tree lovers end up with so many friends? And then I realized it's because they branch out. Anyways, I hope you guys liked this first episode of Plant Facts. If you did, make sure to thumbs up, make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you guys in next week's video. Trust me, you're not going to want to miss it. It's really saucy. This is going to be a long video. Oh my god, I just threw up in my mouth. That is definitely a late stage pregnancy issue. Ew. Don't look like you just threw up. Just breathe.